Greetings and salutations, Greek students. We continue our study of Biblical Greek by looking at some example sentences from lesson 28 that include these new me verbs. Now, I know it might feel a little overwhelming to have this whole new set of verbs, this new type of conjugation, but the good news is that once we learn to recognize some of the features of these verbs, they function just like the present, the subjunctives, the aorist, the participle forms that we've already been learning all semester. So hopefully as we get into these, you're not going to be too overwhelmed. But just when you do, take your time, figure out the parts, and we'll get the sentence translated. So let's begin here with lesson 28. I'm going to look at example sentence number 3 to start out with. We'll read the sentence in Greek, break it into its constituent parts, translate it as we go, and then do a couple more examples. So here is, I'm actually going to do this as a bigger screen so you can see it a little easier. En ekene to ete adelphos par edoken, adelphein eis thanaton, kai thugater paradoken pater eis phulakein. So we have in this beginning phrase a prepositional phrase, en ekene to ete. So this is, you see this phrase, en ekene, usually te hemera, in that day. Matthew likes this phrase a lot. This is an interesting use of the phrase because it's not in that day, it's in that year. And really it's doing, Croy's giving you this example because he wants you to look at the new vocabulary of year. In that year, a brother, adelphos, and this is nominative singular. You don't have a definite article, so it's not the brother, it's a brother, par edoken. And so this is a good example of, okay, this is one of those me verbs, right? So I've got to think about how does this conjugation work? It's from, if I was going to look this up, it's from para didomi. I betray. This is the word that shows up in the New Testament to talk about Judas betraying Jesus, or it's a word that's used for traditioning, handing things on. So in this case, par edoken, notice that you don't have the reduplication, para did. So this is not going to be in the present tense, and it's not going to be in the imperfect, which keeps that reduplication. This is an example of a simple aorist, right? That it's undefined. A brother, in that year, a brother betrayed adelphein, a sister, to death. Or you might even see this being like handed her over to death. But this is idea of like giving, he gives her up. He betrays her. He hands her over to death. Kai, and, so we have this first clause, which in the en ekene to ete is that prepositional phrase. It's telling us when a brother betrayed a sister. It was in that year. And kai thugater, and a sister, or sorry, thugater is a daughter par edoken, again, form of paradidomy. It's third person singular aorist active indicative. Betrayed a father unto or to prison. So you could even say hand over. So in that year, a brother handed over a sister to death, and a daughter handed over a father to prison. This is the kind of language that you see, for example, when Jesus is talking about, anyone, believe it's Matthew 10, unless you hate your father and mother, I've not come to bring peace but a sword, and mother will betray daughter, and son will betray brother or father. It's this language of betrayal because of the sort of divisive nature of the arrival of Jesus, and what he asks of those who follow him requires everything. And so if they're not willing to give everything, they'll be they can't follow him, and those who do give everything will be betrayed by their family for doing so. Sentence number 4, u pas ha didus megala dora to ero eis elucetai eis ten basilean ton uranon al hadidus, kai idion cardion, kai hupark anta to theo. So this is a good example of the participles that we see. So the negation here is negating the everyone. It's not negating the participle because it would be may. So it's not all or not everyone deduce, not everyone giving. And so in this case, you have the participle, the one giving, but it's not everyone giving. Megale dora, large, great gifts. Dora. To hereo, to the temple. Eis elusetai. This is from eis erkomai, and the elusomai ending. This is future passive. Yeah. Elusetai. Not everyone who gives gifts to the temple will enter. It is passive, but this is deponent, so you translate it active. Will enter eis tein basilean ton uranon, into the kingdom of the heavens. Notably, this here we're in Matthew's gospel. This ending is plural, not the kingdom of heaven, but the kingdom of the heavens. Technically, usually gets translated as the kingdom of heaven. But the idea is that, and scholar, his name is escaping me, but it argues that the plural form heavens is sort of designating the space where God dwells, not heaven as in the sky, the place up in the sky, but the heavens is the heavenly realms in kind of a Jewish apocalyptic frame of reference. But Allah al-ha deduce, but the one giving, and I'm saying the one giving, this is the substantive use of the participle, and so it's who are we talking about? It's the giver. It's the one who's doing the giving. So that's why I'm translating as the one giving. But the one giving, both, and so here we have a kai, both idion cardion, his own heart, and huparkanta. Here is the neuter participle from huparko. Huparko usually just means something like possessions. It's an existing, like to be or to exist, but it's often used, especially in the neuter, to refer to stuff. So, and possessions, the things being to him, to God. So this is a couple examples. You can see with these me verbs, the challenge is not so much in recognizing, what kind of verb am I looking at, right? You can see even in this participle, the reduplication, the did reduplication here gives you a dead giveaway. Oh, I'm in the present participle. Or I'm in an imperfect if I had that reduplication. But when you don't have the reduplication, you go, I'm looking at an aorist or potentially a future. So these forms that shift are not that difficult to notice. The challenge is keeping all the things straight in your head of going, okay, am I looking at a participle? Am I looking at a subjunctive? Am I looking at a future passive, a lusomai from erkomai? All of these changes are not about necessarily the new forms of a me. What these changes are dealing with is that now we're getting to a point where we've learned enough different concepts that it's coming together. I think the advantage, the good news that you're going to find is that as we kind of come closer and closer to the end, we're more ready to tackle complicated text, which is difficult. But the advantage is that instead of looking at these short little practice sentences, we'll be able to translate longer passages. And those longer passages will help you use context to make these exegetical decisions, these interpretive decisions of going, oh, wait a minute, how do I translate this? What does this mean in light of the overarching narrative or the overarching argument or what's going on in the text? So we're going to see how that works with specific examples as we draw closer and closer to the end of this semester. So keep up the good work, and as you're putting these pieces together, do lots of practice. Don't take too much time off.